Hello, all you model building enthusiasts out there. This is Crazy Horse Creations, and I'm doing another update on my F4 Phantom 1/32 scale. It's been a little while. This is probably going to be a shorter video. I haven't gotten much accomplished, but I wanted to share what I've done so far with all of you. And one of the other things I'd like to mention is that I've been following another F4 1/32 F4 Phantom build by Let's Build Models Together. He's doing the same kit but in the Navy version, and like him, I'm trying to use mostly stock parts, no resin parts, no custom parts on this kit. And I took some cues from him, and I'll show you what I've done so far. So anyway, first I'd like to get started with this photograph here, and I'll zoom in on it so you can see what I'm trying to accomplish. Is this intake here. There's some kind of a texture or freckling inside the exhaust port, or the jet exhaust port, and I wanted to mimic that. I've seen it in other photographs on the internet. This isn't a very good representation, but this is the only one I have without having to go somewhere else to look. I have these two books here. And so what I did is I took these two exhaust ports, two halves, and I try to mimic that look. And this is actually my third attempt. The first and second attempts I didn't care for too much, but I wanted to get that kind of speckled look in the exhaust ports. So basically what I did was I painted this. Let me see what the color was I used here, so you guys know what I used. It wasn't gunship gray. I'm sorry, I should have had this stuff out before I started my video. I believe it was a dark gull gray. Nope. Engine gray. I used this here for the base color. Engine gray. And then what I did was I went ahead and I used a toothbrush with thinned out black and basically just kept on splattering the surface with the toothbrush by just basically rubbing the toothbrush. I'll give you a demonstration of what I did here. Is I just kept on moving the toothbrush over the top to give it, just a nice random speckled look. I tried it with a brush first, and I didn't care for it because the brush was actually making it look like lines rather than speckles. Bring it in a little bit closer so you can see a little bit better. And then, of course, there was a darker area on the end and more of a dark area towards the jet engine itself. So that's how I accomplished that. And then I want to show these here. Now, basically, if I can get light on these, is I use the kit's intakes, and I basically pretty much got them as seamless as possible. I mean, you really can't see a seam on these at all, from either way, from left or right. I'll go from the inside. See if I can zoom in here. No seams at all. And the way I accomplish this is I don't have sanding sticks. What I do have is this right here, and this thing has come in really handy. What I did was I rolled up some regular sandpaper, and I clamped it to this, and I just used this, and this had the angles I needed to get in there. And if you're into model building, I suggest going out and finding one of these. This thing is definitely worth its value. It's paid for itself time and time again. I've had it for years, and it's nice to have. Basically, what I used is I have a full assortment of paper, sandpaper, that I've, you know, basically marked. I've got one of these folders here, and all my sandpaper is here. Let me zoom back out here. But I went out and bought all these different grades of sandpaper, and that's what I use for all my sanding. And on these covers here, I took off the panels. There was some panels on here, and I chunked them off with the Dremel tool, and then sanded all those panels down nice and fine. And then I cleaned it up real well, made sure that the lines were still in, the panel lines were still intact. I redid those, and then, like the guy who did Let's Build Models Together, he basically did an epoxy and put an epoxy in here to make these line up with the intakes. Now, everybody says these things are seamless, but I've looked at a few photographs and found that there is one seam. Sorry, I thought I stopped my video. There is one seam, and this is the seam that exists in the intake, and I'm pretty sure it's because these things do come off when they want to maintain the aircraft. And what I did was I took a piece of tape and I followed this line right here, which is the line that matches up with this line here on this. So this, if you take a piece of tape and run a piece of tape through here, you can basically get this and build it up. And I used the Tamiya 2-part epoxy to do this, and I did I used the fine grade, which is you know, this one here. This is the fine grade. I also have the medium grade, but I like to use the fine because it's a lot easier to use. And then of course I did these here. I pre-painted these and I weathered them up a little bit, so that way these are, you know, like your typical weathered aircraft. And so if I can put my phone down here for a second and show you exactly what I mean by the seams, I'll put this phone down, just bear with me for a moment. So anyway, I'm trying to get this going here. I'm going to be doing some work on it today. So I'll put these back on. All right, so this is what they look like now. Let me zoom in here. See if I can get some light on these. So you can see what I mean by the seam. Anyway, there is a seam, but like I said, there's only a small seam. I can't get any light on it. There you go. Just barely can make it out. But that seam does exist on the aircraft. And that's how I got in there. Now, one of the other things I also did was, rather than having to do a lot of filling in these, I took some 0.04 millimeter plastic, and basically I filled in the gap by running some plastic down, you know, this back side and the top side, so that I won't have to fill in as much. And they still fit. I mean, even with the let me see if I can do this with one hand. Get on there. Okay, so there. I got one of them on. So there. That's basically what I did. And because I'm way I'm holding it, there's a bigger gap there, but it fills in that gap a little bit better than that. Also, another thing I did was I filled in the bottom here to fill that in a little bit so there's no gap in there on this end, so there won't be no visible gap. And I finished some work on my cockpit here, and so I made it look, like it had been used. Now, one of the things I did was I didn't want to go black on the panels, because when I looked at the photographs, all these instrument buttons and knobs and everything on this aircraft are black, and if I painted everything black, you wouldn't be able to see the knobs and buttons. So I did a lighter color gray. They probably are, they are not gray, they're black, but I thought it would add to the detail on these panels to make sure that you could see all the black knobs. And of course, chipping and wear on the panels. I also drilled holes into the foot panels. They're not completely correct, but they do look better than just what you would see on the model if you don't have pilots on it. And I can zoom in on my instrumentation here. There's my instrumentation. Let me set this down a little bit so it doesn't shake. There's my instrumentation panel, and the I'm gonna say the thrust levers. So that's basically pretty much what I've gotten done so far. And like I said, I'm planning on doing some work on it today. I don't know if anything else there is I can mention here that would help. But anyway, just to give you an update on what's going on with this right now. And again, hopefully I'll have another video out sooner than I have. And enjoy your builds. Until the next time, bye for now.